Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WTF podcast. This is Steel City Underground, and I am Terry Fletcher, flying solo this week for our podcast. We just want to talk about what happened. First of all, big WTF. We beat the Patriots. Thank God. Talk about getting a monkey off your back. How many times have we been like, how do we not beat them? And yes, by the way, last year Jesse caught it, so I still think we beat them. But okay, so we've moved on. I haven't, and Joe hasn't, but let's just say, most of the country has. And now that we've beat them, we don't have to revisit that, right? So that was a big WTF for me. I had a feeling we were going to win that game. I know everybody says that, but I really did. Brady's been playing not great, and he's thrown 3 interceptions, actually including our game in the last 3 games. And he just doesn't feel like himself, or he looks 41. So definitely a WTF there. We shut down Gronk. How do we do that? I mean, that is just crazy. So I really appreciated that the defense stepped up. I mean, shout out to Joe Hayden. That guy, he was AFC Defensive Player of the Week, and I know he was really excited about that. I forget when he was a Brown. I only see him as a Steeler now in black and gold, and he is just phenomenal, not just as a player, but he's great to the fans. I see him out there with the fans. He does, the selfies, and he does the Twitter things and likes people's information, and he's just an all-around good guy. I just like him, and he is just a baller on the field, but more than that, he's a leader on the field. I can see him directing traffic and just really knowing where to be. He's just such a smart player. So shout out to him. And when he went up and got that ball and just took it away from both Edelman and Gronk, I was like, yes, I couldn't believe it. I was so excited about that. So great WTF moment for him. And then our rookies. Oh my goodness, our rookies are crazy right now. So Jalen Samuels, I mean, he had over 100 yards, and, just got our running game to the point where we're just like, okay, Connor, you know what? We're happy with you, but make sure that high ankle sprain is taken care of. Those things are tricky, folks. I mean, you could be walking around and feeling okay, but as soon as you start getting on the field and acting like a running back and doing the cut moves and the jump moves and trying to get through traffic as weight is pushing down on you, all of a sudden you're going to feel it. You're definitely going to feel it. We found out on a radio show that Big Ben did in fact have a hairline fracture of his rib. And so because it wasn't displaced, meaning a bone sticking out or a bone moved, it's just like a bruised rib. And I'll do an article on it so you can see the medical part of that. But, the fact that there was no X-ray machine that was appropriate, I should say. Joe and I touched on this. They called it Ribgate last week. That's a big WTF for me. So we just want everybody to be clear, though, that Ben will be fine. Just tape himself up, get a little cortisone injection shot, and he'll be good. So he'll be sore, but he'll be fine to play. I think coming into this weekend, just looking ahead at the Saints, my biggest WTF thing is I know that everybody's really high right now on Drew Brees and what he's doing. And, they should be. He's got 31 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Ben has 30 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. That's the big thing for me right there. Ben leads in yards as far as in the air of over 1,000 to Brees. So it's going to be definitely a high flying offense, I would think. And just really, I think we're going to have a run game as well. But, I have for my fantasy football, I have the Steelers defense, and they're only supposed to get projected 4.52 points. So I had to pick up another defense just because I had to actually pick up the Colts defense who had 17 because I'm in the semifinals. So I was like, I just can't do it, you guys. But I feel like they're going to get 20 points, but that's just such a big projection to say, you know what? I mean, talk about a WTF for me. But back to the game, looking at what happened with Chris Boswell, I really like this kid. I do. And I was really happy to see, Coach Tomlin not do a knee-jerk reaction and just say, okay, you're out. I mean, because he had no faith when we had Scobie, remember him from Jacksonville. And so we picked him up, Josh Scobie, in 2015, I think it was. And he missed field goals like no tomorrow. And guess who replaced him? Yes, that would be Chris Boswell. And he just came in and has been nailing it ever since. So it's really kind of sad to see that he's gotten in his head. And I don't know if it was being given a big contract or what it was. But I mean, when you're missing, coming into the Patriots game, he had missed 6 field goals, 5 extra points. And when he hit the first on the head, the first extra point, that we were like, okay, and the crowd was very loud. The second one went in, but it hit off the upright. And I'm just like, oh boy, he's going to have to make a mental adjustment. And it's really not physical for him. He's pretty straight arrow. And then all of a sudden it just seems to fade, fade right or fade left. And when he missed that 32, I wasn't at the field. Obviously I was watching it from TV, but oh my goodness, I cannot even imagine just the defeat and that boy, just what he was feeling, knowing that everybody in the stadium probably was booing. And I could just see Tomlin over there because he made the decision to go with him after bringing in 2 other kickers. And I still agree with the decision. I mean, then he came back out and talk about just refocusing and nailing the 48-yarder. And that really sealed the game, gave us a 7-point lead that we were able to keep. He did that at 2.5 minutes, in the 2.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But, there's not a lot of kickers out there. I mean, when we get we call you guys yinsers because, being in Pittsburgh or right on the outskirts of that and complaining sometimes of fire Tomlin or do this or do that. And we love you guys. We do. But you tend to sometimes when you get upset because we have such a high standard, it's always fire the next person. And you can't really fire somebody if you don't have a better option. You've got a coach right now, which you may not always agree with him. I know I don't, but I absolutely adore Mike Tomlin. I think he's one of the best players coaches out there. And you ask any player who they want to play for, and he's always in a top 3. But I mean, he has never had a losing season. Never. Once you hit 8 wins, you don't have a losing season. And so to say fire him, regardless of what your expectation is for the team, it's not going to happen. Look who has jobs. I mean, Marvin Lewis is still out there, and talk about frightening. I mean, there's people out there that still have jobs that shouldn't. Look how long they kept the Browns coach that happens to now be a coordinator over in Cincinnati again. But, your job is to not lose games. And unfortunately, we went on a 3-game losing streak, which was definitely a WTF for me. But to come back in our 4th game to try and just pull out a win, especially since the Ravens are on their backup quarterback, who is now a mobile quarterback. Joe Flacco is definitely not going to be back in Baltimore. But he's doing a lot of things out there, but he's not the best passer. So you never know if they're actually going to win. But they pulled out another win, so we have to keep pace with that. And so we've got some side-by-side things. One of the good things, though, is that because we won, we basically mathematically took the Browns out of the playoff contention. Can you believe we're even saying that? I mean, they have 6 wins, but just to even say that is painful for me. But I mean, good for them. I just was surprised they actually had that many wins. But did you notice in our game that who's been kind of non-existent lately? Artie Burns. And the play that he comes in on for special teams on the kickoff was then an acrobatic move by 3 different Patriots that batted the ball, moved the ball, and then hit the ball to the 1-yard line. And then another player even had to jump out of the way so they could down it at that area and not touch it. And Artie just totally missed it. You can even hear it on Audible. If you are going back and listening to the game, if you record the game, go back and listen to that. Somebody's saying, Artie, and he was sad after that. And Tomlin was politically correct in his assessment of the game, just saying that 24 he felt was more appropriate. But I'm just telling you, I think his days are behind him. I just don't see him being given another opportunity, as Tomlin puts it, because you had to just say, WTF, what's going on with you? That was definitely an issue. But the couple of things that I just, wanted to bring to everybody's attention, we had some Pro Bowl announcements come out this week, and I'm looking at who got the nod and talk about some snubs. Okay, so here's a WTF. How does Brady get a Pro Bowl nod just because of popularity? I mean, Rivers doesn't, but Brady does. I get Breeze. I get Patrick Mahomes. Even Ben not being in there. I mean, you can't throw 15 interceptions and think you're having your, Pro Bowl season. But I mean, really? And then our offensive line, who's been, to my opinion, the best in the NFL. And it was great to see that our offensive line got the nod. Pouncey and Alejandro Villanueva and, those guys. But Ramon Foster, he's been having a heck of a season. And he doesn't get a nod there. That was sad for me. But, shout out to those guys and to Cam Hayward. I mean, we also didn't get, J.J. Watt didn't get in. JuJu Smith-Schuster didn't get in. JuJu, really? Alvin Kamara, the running back for the Saints that we're going to have to go against, he did not get a Pro Bowl nod. Now, we know that, everybody eventually gets in because so many people either say, I'm hurt, I can't play. And if you don't go to the Super Bowl, you're like, okay, the alternates. But you want to get that first, invitation to the party. So I felt kind of bad for those guys, especially JuJu. He is in top 5 of all categories in any wide receiver in the NFL. And the plays he makes, talk about WTF moments. I mean, okay, yes, he's got half the touchdowns that AB does, because AB has 13 and JuJu has, I think, 6 or 7. But he makes plays that right now Antonio Brown's not making. Now, yes, and AB's been still double teamed, but they're starting to double team JuJu, and he is going up and getting balls, fighting for balls. I mean, he's almost like the anti Martavis Bryant, but he absolutely deserves to get in there. I know he's the second-year player, but just the plays he's making, and he's made some history with some of his, over 90-yard touchdowns. I'm just very surprised because he's also a very popular player. So that kind of surprised me. But in talking about around the league, I kind of went around and did my whole, Steeler WTF things. But there's one, person out there, and I just don't understand why he's not drug tested. And it's not a player, it's a coach. And the coach is Jon Gruden of the Raiders. This man, I mean, okay, so we know he traded Khalil Mack to Chicago. We know he traded Amari Cooper to the Cowboys. Okay, so you got rid of 2 of your best players and said, no, I'm rebuilding the team. I didn't get it, but whatever. And remember, he's being paid like $100 million to be there. Then he gives the Steelers a 3rd-round draft pick for Martavis Bryant, who, by the way, is now indefinitely suspended from the league for, again, drug use. And guess who he just picked up as his backup quarterback to Derek Carr? You'll never guess. Nathan Peterman. Oh, yes, Nathan Peterman. The man who was on the Bills, and let me just give you a short stat here. This is the WTF. He has 3 touchdowns to 15 interceptions in any games he's played. This man had 4 interceptions in 1 half in Buffalo. And he's high on him? Yeah, he's high all right. But I'm like, I mean, coach. I can't even call him coach. Former ESPN analyst. What are you doing? What the football? I just don't get it, and why he has a job. So, I mean, that's just a huge weird thing for me. And something that's really sad, I mentioned Martavis Bryant. I really hope he figures out his life and stuff, because it is a privilege to work in the NFL. But Josh Gordon, once again, he went from Browns to Patriots and was actually doing a great job for them, as a stopgap receiver, and especially when Edelman was out. And he again he pulled himself out. Apparently, I think a suspension was coming, but he definitely had some more drug issues, and so he's now out for the season. So it's just interesting when you see these guys that don't realize that they've just absolutely ruined their livelihood, and they're so talented. So, I feel for them, I do, but the WTF for me is, what are you thinking? I don't understand some of it. And then getting back around the league, not just being so sad, but just kind of looking at what happened over the weekend. Chargers beat Chiefs 29-28. Now, the refs played a role in that. It wasn't as blatant as the Steelers-Charger game, where they got 19 points from us, which I lost my mind. I can't believe there wasn't a suspension out of that game. There absolutely should have been. But the very last play, they're not calling holding, they're not calling defensive, or they're calling defensive holding, not push off or offensive pass interference, and they twice. And if they call that, the Chiefs win. Now, I'm not too excited about the AFC, teams that are not Steelers, because that doesn't help us at all. But I do appreciate a good game. And the Chargers beat the Chiefs 29-28. The Browns beat the Broncos 17-16. So these 1-point games are crazy. I don't know who's betting on football, but oh my goodness. And then the Dolphins, they beat the Patriots twice, but they can't beat the Vikings. And they lost 41-17. Okay. Whatever. Now, there's one player out there that, the WTF comes to me for the media. Why isn't anybody talking about how much Aaron Rodgers sucks this season? They're 5-8-1. He's playing terrible. He doesn't have that Hail Mary, full of grace moment. He is just not playing well. And it's not just the team, it's him. Yes, a couple of drops here and there, but he has just not had it. And they say that he's got some kind of another injury, but I think it's groin, but he wants to play. So they're out of playoff contention. And I just think that's crazy to me. Nobody says anything about him. All they say is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. And, oh, poor Aaron. And when Ben or Phillip or anybody like that absolutely, has a game, mostly Ben, they just trash him for future Hall of Fame quarterback. So it's just weird to me. And then my final WTF has to be bringing it back around to fantasy football. So I'm in 2 leagues, as I've mentioned before. One is my money league, because you can win $1,000, $100 buy-in. And then one is my league. That's my league. Actually, I don't moderate. I'm actually just a player on it. One's my league, and just $10 buy-in is pretty easy league. And actually, people don't at me because it's an auto draft. I know some of you listening to this right now are going, Terry, an auto draft. What are you thinking? You know what? Everybody has the same crappy team, and then you try to go and fix it. So there's no like, oh shoot, I didn't draft that player. It's like, you know what? Everybody gets a bunch of garbage. So then you have to go and try and pick up what you can. But I won this week. I won 69-66 in my league fantasy. So now I'm in 5th place. We don't do playoffs, so we just play who has the best record at the end. But here's what's funny. So I posted it on my Instagram account, and a friend of mine who actually is the one that runs the other league, the money league I'm in, he goes, well, that would be great, because I posted the snapshot of what Yahoo says, except the person I beat is 0-15. So I guess that wasn't really impressive. And he's like, WTF, Terry. And then this week, because I am in 2nd place in my money league, so I had a bye. Good thing I'm usually one that scores the 140 to 180 points, and I scored 93. Thank God for the bye, because it was bad. Nobody was scoring me points. Nobody. And so I was like, oh my goodness, thank gosh for that bye. Otherwise I would have been just bummed. So this weekend I am playing. I'm not projected to win. I'm actually projected to lose by 3 points. So, and I did put in a different defense, and oh my gosh, I want to change my defense back to the Steelers, but something's telling me don't do it. So I have a side bet with somebody for $20 saying the Steelers will score 20 points on defense, but we'll see. I'm not sure. I do like my fantasy football. I think we should do a podcast on it, but Joe frowns on it. He's like, no, because people won't believe you or won't believe us or will be mad because they bet on it. But it would just be to talk about it. What's wrong with that, right? So give Joe some feedback on that. Say, no, let her do it. Let her do it. And we'll have fun with that. So everybody, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I'm sure you'll hear from us before the holidays, but if you don't, just have a great holiday season. Make it a great day. And thank you for listening to the Steel City Underground podcast. What the football? This is Terry Fletcher.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.